is responsible for Max Verstappen's dominance. Max Verstappen is on his way to breaking a lot of long-standing records. You would think he'd get praise for that. Unfortunately, people are complaining that the season is boring due to the lack of competition at the front. I obviously don't agree with criticizing the people who are doing a standout job. I feel that the people that point fingers at Red Bull and Max Verstappen are barking up the wrong tree. The question is, who's to blame and what's the solution? I'm Wimbo. Here's 3 seconds to leave a like and subscribe. Not Max's fault he's flawless. Is it actually a surprise that the driver who was voted 4th best driver in his rookie season by the team principals, who was voted 2nd best driver in the years after that until they voted him best driver in 21 and 22, is actually winning the way he's driving? He has always been consistently good. Max Verstappen scored 10 wins in the period that Mercedes was super dominant, in the 3rd best and later the 2nd best car. Every package that Red Bull built, he attracted the most out of it. And if the maximum was to get a podium, he'd squeeze himself between the two powerful Mercedes cars. We've seen races where he was asked to drive a certain lap time to preserve tires, and he actually managed to do that all 70 laps. Now that's the sort of badassery we're dealing with here. So since 2022, Red Bull has managed to build the best ground effect car, to have the best drivers, to have the best strategy team, to have the fastest pit stops. It's no wonder they're winning every race so far. It's actually impressive. FIA is not to blame. The second thing the salty fans do is yell at the FIA for making these regulations. They wrongly use the term close racing and hate the fact that their precious team can't spend $100 million more to get out of bother. So let me get the record straight here. The cars in the hybrid turbo era had one great flaw, and that was that the cars only were able to follow each other closely for a lap, and then the overheating of the car and the tires forced them to drop back a second or two to cool everything down. After years of complaining about this, the FIA brought in ground effect. The benefit of ground effect and the wings that are used now is that the weight of the cars is pushed up high over the top of the following cars. This is actually very effective, and we've seen battles that went on for several laps, 5 cars fighting at once, and more exciting stuff. It was never promised that ground effect would make the title fight better. The budget cap regulations were set to make sure smaller teams could stay afloat and the midfield teams could make a jump due to having a similar budget as the big guns. We see that this works with teams like McLaren and Aston Martin. The smaller teams that used to struggle on track, but also financially, like Haas and Williams, are actually improving too, and they're actually making a profit. Then there's the wind tunnel time allowance regulation. The FIA's allowance given to teams estimates 50 total shifts of wind tunnel use, with each shift lasting 8 hours. Now that's an allowance of 100%. However, depending on how high a team finishes the previous season, the percentage goes down. This allows the smaller teams to improve their cars and prevents the top teams to take an even bigger lead. All in all, enough is done to have a wonderful close competition. The regulations are pretty restrictive, and there's no silver bullet where one innovation leads to one dominant team. Who is to blame then? Well, it's simple. With everything that is in place, one can only blame themselves for being behind Red Bull. Every team has pretty much equal opportunity to build a car with the right concept. Where everyone is focused on blaming bad guys Verstappen and his team for dominating, people neglect the fact that it's the incompetence of both Ferrari and Mercedes to produce a working ground effect car that led to this situation. You only have to look at the fact that both those teams threw their original concept overboard only a few months ago, meaning they lost a full year of development. Now Ferrari hasn't won anything since 2008, so it's kind of expected of them to be where they are. It's a beautiful brand with a wonderful rich history, and I'm a fan, even though I'm not really a fan, but you know, everyone is a Ferrari fan, so I don't blame them too much, as they are pretty modest in the media too. Now Mercedes started in 2022 with loads and loads of confidence. The sim data showed that their car was a second and a half faster than the rest. They had an advantage locked in for years with their no sidepod concept. Even Lewis Hamilton came out blazing after the huge loss he suffered in Abu Dhabi 2021. And Russell was excited about the car too.
When I saw our car, I saw everybody else's car, I thought, fuck, this looks fast.
It all turned out to be a huge letdown. Now, instead of criticizing Mercedes for building another box, those lovely best fans of the world and the media that comes with it screamed bloody murder over a 400k budget cap breach. While it wasn't a surprise that Verstappen started winning everything, it wasn't really that surprising that Mercedes wasn't winning anymore either. With the engines frozen, their biggest advantage has gone. Now it comes down to building the best car and seeing how they struggled in 2021 with the floor regulations, and then in 2022 with the ground effect regulations. It's not surprising that their cars are still bouncing like mad even now, as we've heard from the complaints from Lewis Hamilton and George Russell in Belgium. What actually should happen now? The ironic thing is that most of the negativity comes from the fan base of a team that dominated for 7 years. Those people and the media that are obsessed with that team should look at their own team and Ferrari and the rest of the grid and hold them responsible for the lack of competition we're seeing. The ingredients for an awesome season are there. Those fans, with the help of their huge media influence, should force their team to pull their socks up, point out the flaws, force them to do better, rather than take the shine away of the team and the driver that are just pissing excellence. Subscribe. Take care now. Doei doei.